Guys, welcome back. The Built by Vitality podcast. I am your host, Steve Pinkerton, and I'm sitting with
Philip Lewis.
And we are back. In today's episode, we're going to talk about what is your time worth?
Mine's worth a lot. Used to not be. It just depends on what it is.
Okay. All right. I might argue some of that. Yes, I believe, Philip, your time is worth quite a bit. And I think that's one of the things we talked about from the beginning when we launched Vitality Media. I said, man, there's a lot of people doing what you do. They undervalue their time and they burn themselves out, or they just make a very unsustainable business model that doesn't, the economics of it don't work. Mm-hmm. So I thought today, I'm hoping I've got a ton of notes that I was messing around with, and Philip knows I get in this trance behind my computer and I start typing up kind of the show notes of how I want to go, and I got a little out of control today. It just kept going and going. Okay. So I'm probably gonna make this completely unfollowable, but we'll see. I think it's important though. I think this is a tough concept for entrepreneurs because we're so financially disciplined that we know how hard it is to make money, then we realize how hard it is to keep money. A lot of entrepreneurs don't have a problem making money. They have a problem keeping that money and not spending it. And I'm not saying frugally spending, I'm saying spending it on the business, spending it on growth, spending it on advertising, whatever it could be. But I think we overlook the value of our time, and it can be very vital in prioritizing our expenses and our decisions. More so our decision process is something that I think understanding the value of your time is very, very important. So you can look at this. I can take my 13-year-old and she understands this. She says, if I ask her, hey, do you want to rake leaves for $1 an hour? What's she going to say? No.
Heck no, that's terrible.
But if Philip says, hey, I'll let you rake my leaves for $100 an hour, she's out the door in your backyard raking leaves before you know what to do. I mean, so the concept of what the value of money is there. The issue is the value of time somehow gets lost in the mix. And it's not always as black and white as, is Philip going to work for 10 cents an hour, or is he going to work for $50 an hour? It's all the gray area in between. And we'll talk about a couple examples of how this can work. So I'm going to give you a scenario. You tell me what you'd do. There's a Apple computer. You need a new computer, and obviously you're going to look for a Mac, because that's what makes sense. And you find one. Mm-hmm. It's $1,500 on this small website called Amazon. Mm-hmm. And being the good businessman that you are, you do a quick search and you find that South Park Mall has the same laptop and it's $1,350. Mm-hmm. What do you do?
I look at my time to see if I have enough time to go to South Park to get it. But most likely business owners and stuff, they don't have the time. They would probably just hit it on Amazon.
What do you think would go into you going down to South Park?
God, if I'm really busy.
Call it a 45-minute drive.
Yeah, you're going to have to drive there and back. So that's almost 2 hours of driving. That's not including parking, walking in there, getting in line, having them try to upsell you on stuff you probably don't need. Then instead of $1,350 when you leave there, you probably spent more than $1,350. You're probably above the $1,500 you could have got it for on Amazon. You leave there with a bigger, better computer that you didn't even need. You knew what you needed when you searched it.
Yep.
And then all that time, 3, 4, 5 hours later, you got a computer and you probably spent more money.
Yeah.
Or you bought something else because you're at the mall.
But I think a lot of people look at it and they'll just simply say, oh, $1,350, I'm gone, let's do it. And they don't think about it until they're sitting in traffic on 77 or wherever, and they park 2 miles away from the doggone mall because it's packed, and then they got to wait in line to get in the store because you can't go into stores now because there's a limit. Yeah. So it's 1 in, 1 out type of deal once they reach the capacity. So before you know it, now your blood pressure's up, your stressed out. You know, you're having to push some appointments back because you're running late, and it's all because you didn't understand. You didn't do that little test of, okay, let's say it's 2.5 hours. Is my time worth more than $65 an hour? Well, as an entrepreneur, it better be, or you're not going to be an entrepreneur for long.
You might miss 2 clients because of the traffic or because of that trip, and those 2 clients, say they're $100 an hour,
Yeah.
there's whatever it is.
And this is a very easy one. But there's also the hidden value of not doing something you don't enjoy. What's it worth not to drive the 45 minutes? What's it worth not to get stuck in traffic?
Oh, that feels
What's
good.
it worth not to fight the crowd? I mean,
Worth more than what I probably charge an hour.
I would say
Feels
that,
really good.
that, and that's a cost only you can determine, only I can determine. I will tell you this, that my value of not being stuck in traffic is higher than your value of not being stuck in traffic.
Yeah.
I just know it. No. It's not even,
That's
not
probably true.
debatable.
You didn't like going our recent podcast where we went to Chick-fil-A?
No, even that.
That's
I
about
was-
3 minutes away,
Yeah.
and he was on edge.
I don't like driving places. And is that healthy? No.
There wasn't even traffic. You
I
just
know.
didn't want to go that far.
I just didn't want to go that far.
Yeah.
And it's not healthy. I'm okay with that. I accept that. But that's my choice. So I will put a higher value of that time towards doing things that I would like to do rather than that. Now let's look at like some gym specific things that I've dealt with and I've talked to quite a few people about that in the fitness world, but this can be anything. This can be any, you can plug and play this into any business. For us, programming solutions, it's a big one. That's why we created Hybrid WOD. That's why that we program for these boot camp style classes. We charge somewhere between $125 and $165, let's call it. And we get pushback quite a bit about the cost. And I get it. I understand. Everybody's trying to get those fixed costs, those operating expenses as low as possible. But what they need to do is reverse engineer this. How long does it take to do a month worth of programming? I would argue on the low end, it's 3 to 3.5 hours. And that is being very, very conservative.
Yeah,
I think it's much more
definitely
than
see
that.
Brent. Like when Brent's programming a lot of that stuff, he's got to be doing it more than that.
I would say Brent spends about 4 to 5 hours programming.
Yeah.
So let's say for your gym, you're going to spend 4 hours. Well then, okay, you're getting 4 hours of your time back. If your time is worth more than $35 an hour, it makes sense to outsource the programming. And it's not that it makes sense. It's a no-brainer.
Like I said, it just feel good. It's done. And when you can get other stuff accomplished, like you wake up and you're like, oh, this is what it is today. I can go do this now. You don't have
Yes.
to, it's not even a thought.
Yes. Now, the caveat to this is I've done programming for 12 years for Vitality, and it takes, I would say, I spend 4 hours. Let's call it 4 hours a month. But I love doing it. I truly love doing it.
This brings up another topic. I was going to kind of ask you off camera. I could do it now. You think I could take that over?
Oh, yeah, absolutely not. Absolutely
Okay.
not. Yep.
That was easy.
It's funny. I have really enjoyed the process of learning and evolving my programming, and I'm never going to make everybody happy. It won't happen.
You can't.
But I think that's part of the process that I had to learn the hard way. Is I took so much feedback and I was so vested into this, and I do most of the programming. I'm probably 80% of my programming I do myself, as in I do it in the class. I do the workouts, and but I enjoy that. Can my time be spent better somewhere else? Absolutely, yes. But I don't want to because I enjoy it. Now, that is the ultimate caveat to all of this is if you enjoy driving to South Park and you enjoy the shopping experience and you like the people and you like the interaction, then go do it.
Yeah.
Figure it out. You'll be fine. But if you don't, stop.
Yeah.
Just stop
don't
doing it.
Don't force yourself to do it if you don't like it.
We are, I have made so many changes over the last 3 or 4 years. And one of the biggest ones, and I've talked about it before, is I'm done doing things I don't enjoy doing. I'm done. I don't need to please anybody else. If I don't want to do it, I'm not going to do it. Now, does that mean, I might not love going out to a restaurant, but I'm not talking about, taking my family out to a restaurant. I'm talking about things that are outside of my family. If I don't enjoy doing them, I'm not doing them. It's the same time. People ask me all the time, hey, let's go grab a cup of coffee. Well, first of all, if you're asking me to grab a cup of coffee, you don't know anything about me because I don't drink coffee. I've never drank coffee. No. And so if you're asking me to go get a cup of coffee, then... And
you got to drive there.
You might as well be cold calling me, selling me, a puppy dog, because that's about how good of a chance I have of going to get coffee.
Because you don't like puppies either.
I'm not getting a puppy. I've had 2 dogs, and no. Guess who takes care of those 2 dogs? The big guy. Okay. So anyway, I'm just done doing that. I'm done doing things that I don't enjoy doing. But now, as an entrepreneur, we need to understand what we enjoy doing and what we don't enjoy doing. Let's talk about cleaning the gym. This was a big one. It sounds stupid, but for, I would say 10 years, I would say a decade, I cleaned Vitality myself every Sunday. And I say myself, my kids would come in, Jess would come in, but it was us. It was nobody else. I didn't have anybody hired to come in and do that. It took me about 90 minutes. I'd mop, I'd scrub, the whole deal. And to me, it was important because, to be honest, I liked it because it was one of the tools I used to keep me humble. It kept me engaged in that part of the process. But a year ago, I said, I don't enjoy this anymore. Yeah. I started to dread it a little bit. My Saturdays would be like, man, I just kind of want to be done when I'm done coaching. So I hired somebody, and it didn't matter what, I didn't have to run those numbers of what my time was worth because I no longer enjoyed it and I wanted to outsource it, and I did. And that freed up 6 hours a month for me to do mostly things outside the gym.
You could grill out. You could do some other stuff. Like you could get that done earlier time or whatever.
Just had more time to myself. As an entrepreneur, the one thing we don't have a lot of is free time. And I realized that, after doing this for 12 years, I understand how amazing it feels to not have a time requirement on a day or whatever. There's always something that we have to be doing. Even today, I woke up, I came to the gym, I coached, I had a conference call, and I was going to get some programming done. But you know what? I said, hey, I want to work on this podcast topic. I sat down. 45 minutes later, here we are. Now we're recording a podcast, and this will be done about lunchtime. I'll have about 45 minutes to, my lunchtime, not your lunchtime.
I'm going to eat with you.
Okay. And then the day is going to be almost, once it hits 12:30, 1 o'clock, and then we get a 90-minute training window, the day's over. I mean, we train, we recover, we shower, and by that time it's 3:30, and I've got a good 90 minutes to 2 hours before I have to start getting done for the day, and I'm out of here by 6. So, these things, there are very few pockets of free time, and
you don't want to stuff it with things that people ask you don't enjoy doing or that you don't like,
or that I don't enjoy doing. Yeah. And I think you can start to wrap your head around this when you start to put a value on your time and you start to realize how valuable your time is. Because if I know I only get X amount of free hours a week, and you're telling me, cool, I'm going to free up X amount of more hours. Mm-hmm. Now I don't have to do those things that I don't enjoy doing. That's huge. Let's say you only get, a quality 10 hours a week. And that means, quality being that I truly don't have, I'm not doing anything. My mind is free. 10 hours is a lot. That's a lot. But imagine if you can do another 2 to 3 hours of that. Are you kidding me? So now let's get outside of the fitness world. Let's talk about some other areas where I've seen this play out, and I've seen people make mistakes on how they view things, how they frame the questions and the scenarios that they're faced with. Let's look at the real estate side. As landlords face the dilemma of time and money often, and think about this scenario. I've got a space that comes open in my building. The previous tenant, let's pick an easy number, was paying $8,000 a month in rent. They're gone. And I think that's what the market supports. I think that was in line with what the market supports for that size space. I think I could get that, but I'd need to hire a broker, and I think I would estimate it's going to take 4 to 5 months to put someone in there. All right. Philip comes to me and says, hey, I'd be willing to pay $6,000 a month for that space now for 3 years. I'd say, okay. A lot of people would look at that and say, I don't want $6,000 a month. I want $8,000 a month. No, I'm sorry, Philip, we can't do it. And that might be the right answer. But what you need to do is you need to, again, reverse engineer this and peel back the layers of this and understand exactly what you're giving up.
You just turned down, say, $40,000, $50,000 maybe until you could even get that space leased out.
So let's run the numbers and say, okay, let's look at what this lease would do. That 3-year lease with Philip at $6,000 a month would net me somewhere in the $216,000 range over 3 years. They're going to immediately, the people are going to compare that and say, well, if you got the $8,000 a month, it's going to net you $288,000 versus the $216,000. It's about $70,000 difference. Mm-hmm. I'm not giving up $70,000. Okay, I'm with you. I'm tracking. However, if you look closer, that $8K a month tenant is going to take you 5 months to find them. All right, so now Philip was going to pay me $6,000 right then over 5 months. That's $30,000 in money that I'm not going to get. That's $30,000 right off the bat. Oh, and by the way, I got to get a broker. Mm-hmm. And brokers, last I checked, they don't like to work for free. Yeah. They're going to charge somewhere in that 5.5% range. So I don't know if people understand how a real estate broker works on the commercial side, but Philip is a landlord. He hires me as his broker. You have a space that has a $300,000 lease rental on it. Let's say that 3-year lease nets you $300,000. You pay me, the broker, 5.5% of that $300,000 up front.
So I should be a real estate broker.
I mean, it's a good deal. Now, sometimes it's worth it, sometimes it's not. So let's say you take that $288,000 lease, which is the $8,000 for 3 years. That's $15,000, almost $16,000 that you're going to pay right out of your pocket for this broker to do that. In addition to that $16,000, you've got the $30,000 that it's sat empty for 5 months. So now you're talking almost $50,000 is really the gap between the two.
So technically, you made more from the get-go if you took the $6,000, right?
Well, you don't. You'd be about $15,000 off, yeah. But much closer than people think.
Yeah, less stressed out. Too.
Way less stressed. So you've got to look at it. It's not always just black and white. Like, oh, well, I'll just wait for the $8,000 a month tenant. Because here's the thing. Let's say I'm wrong. Let's say that doesn't take 4 to 5 months for a tenant to come. Let's say the pandemic hits.
Yeah.
And this thing sits empty for 16 months.
Yeah.
Now you're not talking about, it's apples to apples. Now you're talking about losing over $100,000. So I'm not telling you to always take upfront money versus, the potential for bigger money. I'm just saying that real money is always more valuable than forecasted money. Would you rather say, hey man, I'll take $100 now, or if you give me like 2 weeks, I think I can turn it into 130. No, man, give me the $100 now.
I'll take it.
We're good. And I think that's the trap that people fall into is they don't put enough time into understanding what that value of time is worth. It's not just what our time is worth, but it's also sitting empty, spaces sitting empty, opportunities not being able to get acted on.
I asked Spencer and them the other day about money. I said, would you rather take 100,000 cash right now or flip a coin for a chance to win $1 million? What would you pick?
I would take the 100,000 cash, but I would be very, very frustrated with you.
Well,
That's a tough question.
well, I know. So somebody said they would take that 100,000. They would said I could invest it and I'd turn it to $1 million. They're like,
Well,
I would take it instantly.
Yeah, okay.
I was like, I don't know about
First
that.
of all,
that's a big difference.
It's a massive
big
difference. And that's why we get caught into this nonsense is people say stupid things like that. I understand, yes, can you go get this money and can you get a huge return on your money? Sure you can.
Yeah.
But here's what usually will happen. The people that say, oh, well, I'll turn 100,000 into $1 million. Okay, yeah. I got you, Chief. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to think you're smarter than everybody else. And instead of playing the long game and saying, you know what, I can turn it into $1 million, but it's going to take me probably 15 years.
Yeah.
They want to turn it into $1 million in 3 months. Yeah. So they're going to go find this startup, this new idea, this new company, and they're going to invest their 100,000 into it. You know what that 100,000 is going to be worth in 3 months? Zero.
Yeah, they should have flipped the coin.
Yeah, they should have flipped the coin. There is no such thing as, hey, I'm going to take this money and just turn it into, people would tell me, oh, if you're not getting 12% on your money, you're crazy. Okay. Let me help you guys out. Very few people are getting double-digit returns on their investment unless it's a risky investment. Okay, and I'm so sick and tired of people saying that and telling me, oh yeah, I need to get 15% or I need to get 18 points on my money. No, you don't.
The only time I've ever seen that percentage is my interest rate on my cars.
Yeah.
It's gotten better as my credit got better. But
what is this, Wall Street? I mean, what are we doing here? Yeah. In between your sets of 20 ab mats, you're doing some day trades and getting your 20%. No, it's not.
On
it doesn't
my
work like
Robinhood
that.
app.
Yeah, exactly. So the other one I want to talk about is compensation. And when people look at jobs, you've got to really, I see this with quite a few younger folks that we work with. They try to evaluate 2 job offers, and their main evaluation is based on their salary. And I would give you these 2 scenarios. One job offer is great salary benefits or great benefits and a salary of $80,000. Not bad. Job 2, the same benefits, but the salary is $190,000. However, the $80,000 job requires no travel and the commute is minimal. The $190K, you're commuting in about 50 minutes to an hour a day, one way, and you travel 1 weekend a month. Most people would look at this and say, man, I can suck it up. 190, man, that's a lot of money. And they just don't work it out. They don't do the math on it. And they don't realize that when you really spread this out and you say, okay, if I accept job number 2, I'm going to spend 10 hours a week commuting to work. That's
without traffic. That's just smooth sailing takes that long.
That's 520 hours a year. 520 hours. In addition, you're working a weekend a month. So I'm just counting Saturday, Sunday. That's another 575 hours a year. So you're away from home for a grand total of 1,096 additional hours. That's 45 full days, 24-hour days. So you got to do the math. If you take those, if you take job 1, which is $80K, normal hours, banker's hours type of deal, it's 2,000 hours per year, roughly. At $80,000 a year, you're making about $40 an hour. Not terrible. Okay, a lot of people would be happy with that. Yeah. If you take job 2, you're working those same 2,000 hours plus the 520 of commute time, plus the 575 in your weekend travel time, for a grand total of 3,100 hours a year. You divide that by the 190,000, you're getting paid about $58 an hour. again, that might be enough for you to say, you know what? I don't love commuting. I don't love traveling, but for an extra $18 an hour, over 3,000 hours, I'm going to take it. And that's okay. If you decide that, it's your choice.
And it depends, like, what if you have I guess it varies on a person too. What if you have a family and you're like, man, I can't leave them once a month like that, or that drive, I got kids, I got to take them to school, my wife, whatever. But if you're single and you're like, hey, 18 more bucks an hour, I'll take it. It just depends. But the time, even then, you got to think about that.
And at least you understand what you're getting yourself into. At least you can mentally prepare yourself and you know, okay, shoot, I'm stuck in traffic, but you know what? I'm actually getting paid $58 an hour for my travel. So I'm making money while I'm traveling. And you can justify in your head why that makes sense.
Yeah.
If you don't do that and you just make a decision based on the salary, and maybe the work conditions aren't great, maybe there's a ton of other things, you've got to start putting a value on your experience, your quality of life. Yeah. And if you don't put that value, then you can't make these decisions and prioritize the way that you need to. And as entrepreneurs, it's all about prioritizing what is most important. And we become entrepreneurs. Why? Because we want to control our destiny. We want the autonomy, the flexibility, the independence that comes along with it. Well, we can't do those things if we're not prioritizing what our decision-making process looks like.
Employers don't look at it like, okay, Philip's here 8 to 5. Or employers, that's how they normally look at it. But I've looked at it before when I was at the beer company. I even said this to a manager one time. He said, you worked here, you got here today at 7, you left at 4 or whatever, it's not bad. I said, yeah, but I got up at 4 this morning because of work.
Yeah.
I was like, I count that because it's affecting me. So if I got up at 4, I added 3 extra hours of that day. You just said I worked 7 to 3 or whatever you said. So, like you said, you have to add that in there, whether it's travel.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to get up at 4 if it wasn't for work.
I think you've got to understand too that your compensation is important, but the way employers need to look at things needs to be shifted a little bit. It doesn't need to be, hey, how many hours a week are you working? It needs to be output based. I don't care what time you come in. I bust your chops all the time, but I don't care. I care that you're getting the content out that we need, and the milestones that we set for our weekly meetings, they get done. If those things are happening, I don't care. Same thing with Laura. I don't care. She's had years and years and years where she's worked 12, 14, 15-hour days. If she wants to cut out early, I know she'll get what she needs to get done. Yeah. When employers start to force people to work certain hours, all they're going to force those employees to do is get really good at solitaire or get really good at some app on their phone, because now we're just
good at looking for jobs.
Yeah, exactly. Or a really good resume.
Yeah.
I mean, look, do I think that's important that there's some structure?
Yeah.
Yes, but it needs to be a performance-based structure, and that all starts with the process, the thought process of what's my time worth. And if we can start to frame our mind and frame that concept through that lens, I promise you, things will get easier. And your decision-making process will get easier too, because you'll start to understand, okay, you know what? I'm willing to pay a little bit more to avoid doing something I don't want to do. Mm-hmm. But again, all bets are off. If you're doing something that doesn't make sense, I don't care if you enjoy it. If it brings you happiness, I don't care. If I still wanted to clean the gym on Saturday or Sunday, if I truly enjoyed it, I'd be cleaning the gym, but I don't enjoy it anymore. And the key is, when that time comes, you have to be able to act and get yourself out of that situation, or else everything else will sort of snowball along with it.
I thought about getting, Vitated Media. We just hire like an editor. We just shoot everything and we just have them edit it.
Yeah.
like Spencer or somebody.
I think it'd be a great idea to come out of your part of the cut, and I think it'd be great.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I'll keep doing it.
All right, guys. I hope that was somewhat relatable to some experiences you've had. I tried to give some context and things that have happened to us here at Vitality. I'm very have a strong opinion about this, and I think that the financial part of this will be something we focus on more and more in later episodes, because I think that's one thing people don't talk enough about, and I get why, but I think some of the financial mistakes or some of the financial principles that help Vitality get to where it is are important for people to learn from, because we made a lot of mistakes, but we've also done some things right. So
we talked about this in an older podcast. Y'all can look it up. Wasn't it the one with the first hire with Laura?
Yeah.
Remember how you were strapped, like you were doing all the member stuff, everything. You finally brought Laura on, and it freed up a ton of time and stress. So you can go back and look at that one. I think it was the first entrepreneur's first hire.
And we never would be where we are now if I didn't evolve from doing everything. And there's a lot of people that don't make it out of that first 2 or 3 years because they're not willing to give up that control. And I can promise you, nobody has more OCD and control issues than I do, and I was able to do it. So if I can do it, anybody can.
With some things.
Yeah.
I'll soon take over the program, and we'll get you on that.
All right, guys. Have a great day. This is the Built by Vitality podcast.